Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex P. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Wednesday, January 30 in Cameron. Alex B. Smith back with me, ready to break down the Wednesday NHL card. Just a very light slate, 2 games on tap for Wednesday night, which means we have a lot to break down from last night, a very busy Tuesday. We'll recap that in just a moment. But first, couple of show announcements. We have picked out 2 betcast dates for the month of January. The one betcast date will be our Patreon members only betcast. And we are keeping that date a secret, okay? Just know that we have picked one out for the month of January. And what's going to happen is all of a sudden, the day of that betcast, we're going to drop the YouTube link on the Patreon page, only on the Patreon page for members. And just all of a sudden, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, they're going to have a betcast tonight. How fucking amazing is that? And it's just going to be, hopefully you have that kind of reaction. It's like, oh God, another betcast. I hope nobody thinks that. But nevertheless, yeah, that's the way we're going to do it. We're going to surprise everybody, everyone that's on Patreon. And my goodness, the number of members I'm seeing now on Patreon, the numbers keep climbing. It is so great to see. We appreciate that very much. And again, as we always say, the $10 per month you commit to us with Patreon helps preserve the show for hopefully a very long time to come. So we'll just flash that up, patreon.com/iceguys, $10 per month. We have picked out our exclusive Patreon members only betcast for the month of January, but we will not reveal it. We will just drop the YouTube link on the Patreon page the day of the betcast, and there you go. It's going to be pretty much a surprise. So looking forward to that later in the month. And then we have also picked out our main public betcast, free for all, of course, and definitely we're looking forward to that as well. The main betcast for the month of January, write this down. It's going to be Tuesday, January 16th. Okay, so that's in a couple of weeks. Tuesday, January 16th, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, and that will be our main primary betcast, if you will, for the month of January. We're looking forward to that. So again, that's Tuesday, January 16th. We have Seattle against the New York Rangers, Colorado, Ottawa, Anaheim, Washington, LA, Dallas. What a great matchup that is. Kings and Stars on Tuesday, January 16. Islanders, Winnipeg Jets, San Jose, Chicago, the Toilet Bowl, battle for last place, if we were talking about that. That's the sicko special, if you will, on Tuesday, January 16th, Sharks and Blackhawks on that Tuesday slate. And then we'll wrap it up with 2 games at 9 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, January 16, Arizona, Calgary, and a great all-Canadian matchup, Toronto and Edmonton. So a very nice night of games coming up Tuesday, January 16th. So there you go. That will be our primary main betcast in the month of January. So again, that's just everybody's open to join us. Well, as always, send the StreamYard links out to anyone that wants to join us on the betcast that night, Tuesday, January 16th. So looking forward to it. First betcast, well, if you include the Patreon members only one in January, the first 2 betcasts of the new year. Alex, definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, the numbers that we've seen grow on the Patreon page has been fantastic. We truly appreciate the support. It means the world to us. Like I said, we've got a ton of stuff coming. I'll be having the new goalie charts updated, kind of tweaking the look of it a little bit on there, and also kind of getting some newer updates. There's been a ton of injuries, and also we're all out with the holiday roster freeze, so I'll have a more updated setup with that. Also, we'll have a few more charts coming out soon that will be downloadable in PDF format as well. We're also going to try and make sure that when we post the Chris Otto charts, that those are a little bit cleaned up and posted where you can download those easily as well. I mean, it does a good job of posting them already, but on our end, some things, like I said, get a little clogged when we're trying to post on Patreon. There's also the Patreon app, which we'll talk about too a little bit later, but that's something that I'm going to be downloading on my phone. And I think Ian, we talked about that. We might download that together and start utilizing things that'll be more mobile. And that way we can kind of bring back some of the live betting aspects as well, because it's a little bit hard to do just from a desktop perspective. So we're going to be working on all of that. So Patreon, definitely want to sign up for that. $10 a month. It definitely supports us and helps us in a big way. And we continue to try to provide some of the best content in hockey betting for you guys.
Absolutely. And we're going to have lots of other things outside of the, the written content and the bonus betcast. We're going to have bonus videos, Q&A stuff. We'll roll out exclusive videos and just bonus content. We're probably going to add to the Players Suite series throughout, more so the off season, but I think we've got a couple players in mind that have talked about we might be able to record during season with a couple more for the Players Suite, which of course remains Patreon exclusive as well. So that will continue. The Players Suite was a great response to it last summer. I know a lot of people enjoyed it. We will definitely keep that going, of course, throughout 2024 as well. So definitely looking forward to that. So a great month of stuff, really a great year of stuff. And again, patreon.com/Ice Guys, $10 per month for the daily card, the exclusive betcast coming in January, and all kinds of more exclusive content on the way. All right, let's get into last night and the NHL slate that took place. Huge night of action. I mean, Matt and I were doing the show for almost 2 hours. That's how many games there were last night on the slate. But we start with Boston, a very solid, workmanlike, effective road victory for them, 4-1 against Columbus. The highlight for me was Trent Frederick. I mentioned Trent Frederick on the show, worth a look from a goal prop standpoint, and he found the back of the net, scored one of the goals for Boston. They get the 4-1 win against the Jackets there. How about the impressive 6-1 thrashing by the Carolina Hurricanes over the New York Rangers in New York? Very, very impressive. I mean, we were all starting to really worry about Carolina about 2-3 weeks ago. If you remember, they were just scuffling. They were really struggling to score goals. The defensive game and the goaltending was a problem. Well, now their offense is going, and it's because Aho and Svechnikov have arisen from their slumber finally, and they are dominating right now. This is by far Svechnikov coming out of his slumber because he's been pretty disappointing, really. Down the stretch before his injury last year, he was kind of up and down, and coming back from the injury, he was just not producing, and he can't be stopped right now. He's been absolutely terrific. What a beautiful goal he scored. A great rush down the ice to beat Shesterkin. 6-1 win for Carolina, and another great performance in net from Pyotr Kochetkov, who was very good once again for Carolina. We've been banging that drum for several weeks now. It's time to end it with the seniors home and go to this kid, Kochetkov, moving forward as the number one goalie. And he's been very good the last 2 wins against Toronto and the Rangers. He played great in both of those. So 6-1 win for Carolina, getting back to looking like that team that could be a problem in the Eastern Conference postseason, like they've been for so many times. Washington, 4-3 against Pittsburgh. One of those weird games where Pittsburgh was awful. I can't explain how bad they were in the first period. They were terrible. They were brutal. Them and the LA Kings, battle between who had the worst first period last night between those two teams. Absolutely hideous, both of them. Pittsburgh, though, I think it had to be. I mean, it was brutal. Yeah. I mean, they were coughing up the puck. The goaltending stunk from Jari. It wasn't one of his better nights. He got pulled. But really, they didn't have the puck, and they didn't have any shots in that period. It was just Washington was just suffocating them. And then after the first period, they make the goalie change, and Delkovich comes in, and after that, Pittsburgh's dominant, really. They had badly outplayed Washington. Washington's hanging on for dear life at the end. And I thought for sure once it got to 4-3, Washington might blow that game, and which would have been good news for the draw, which I was on. And I know Alex had a piece of the draw too, Capitals and Penguins. We almost got it. But Pittsburgh just couldn't find that late tying goal. Man, they had chances. They had power play chances, one after another, and they just couldn't buy that tying goal. And Washington ends up hanging on for the 4-3 victory. But that was not a convincing victory. Washington played 20 really good minutes of hockey. Pittsburgh played 20 extremely poor minutes of hockey. And unfortunately, that was the difference. Because, to be honest, Washington wasn't great once they got that big lead, and they just were able to hang on 4-3 against Pittsburgh in that game. Montreal, 4-3. How about them? A nice win on the road. Big upset against Dallas. I did have Montreal team total over 2.5. I had a very small piece of them on the money line, but more so on the team total. Didn't necessarily think they would win the game, but wow. Great performance by them. Dallas again, which they're capable of doing. Sometimes they play down. And they definitely did that. But funny thing about this game is it was 4-1 Montreal. It looked like they had put the game away Peter DeBoer pulls the goalie, Scott Wedgwood. They score twice with the extra attacker to make it 4-2 and 4-3. And, man, they came close to tying it. They were buzzing to make it 4-4. But Sam Montembeault had a pretty good game, and the Canadians hang on for a 4-3 win in Dallas. Calgary 3-1 against an injury-riddled, depleted, shorthanded Minnesota team. I think we all liked the Flames. I did. I think Alex liked Calgary. I know Kyle Hintley in our chat really liked Calgary. There he is. Easy 3,000 profit from the Calgary Flames last night. I don't know if it was easy. I mean, they were 2-1, and it was still pretty close at the end there. But Blake Coleman ended up putting it away with an empty netter. 3-1 Calgary there. Nashville with a 3-0 shutout against Chicago. Pretty disappointing, actually, for Chicago. You get whipped by Dallas on New Year's Eve, and you don't have a better performance than that. And actually, we can't really blame Soderblom. I mean, Soderblom gives up 3 goals, but that's actually good for his standards. And when you look at Chicago, they didn't give him any run support, so to speak. So 3-0 Nashville win there. 4-2 Winnipeg against Tampa Bay. I don't know how they screwed this one up. And this is on Cooper and probably the management team. How the hell do you put yourself in a situation where you're stuck playing with 5 defensemen? I mean, that was the case last night for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And that's obviously asking for trouble. And it's funny, once I heard that going into the game, I said, I'm going to add more to my position here on Winnipeg. Like, that's 5 defensemen for the whole game. You talk about guys having to play way more ice time than they're accustomed to. And sure enough, Tampa Bay can't overcome it. Winnipeg with the 4-2 victory over the Tampa Jets. I'm a buyer. I'm a believer in the Jets. You know, I know they collapsed down the stretch last year, and I guess there's no telling that maybe could happen again this year, but I don't know. Everything I see, the eye test tells me they're a legit playoff team, and they're a dangerous team once we get into the playoffs. Winnipeg, from what I've seen. Florida, nice 4-1 win for them against Arizona. It's a very impressive win considering how well the Coyotes have played at Mullet Arena. So I definitely give the Panthers credit for that. 5-4 Colorado over the Islanders. I'm not so sure that goal shouldn't have counted with 20 seconds left in the third. It maybe should have, but I'll take it. The draw gets there with the Islanders and the Avalanche, and obviously we also had a piece of that over, and it also cashes in there. Colorado with a 5-4 win over the Thailanders, who once again reward us with another successful stay and visit and trip to Draw Island. So that was very nice to see once again last night. Plus 390, by the way, with that draw bet. With that game last night. Edmonton, nice 5-2 win against Philly. And I said last night, even with the dubious spot for the Oilers coming back home off a road trip, I said, I'm not stepping in front of this team. I made that mistake with LA against Edmonton Saturday night. And I've said, I'm done going against this team. They're feeling their oats right now. The Edmonton Oilers. McDavid, 5-point night. Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl. Last night, the big boys got it going. The nights previously, we saw secondary, tertiary offense from the Oilers, from McLeod and from Fogle. I mean, and their defense and their goaltending have improved. And this is a scary run right now. What is it now? 14-2 or 15-2 for Edmonton in the last 16 or 17 games. And now they're 1 point out of the wild card now. And it's pretty amazing that with where they were at the moment they fired Jay Woodcroft to where they are now in terms of the playoff race, they've gotten themselves right back in it. It's really incredible, the run that the Oilers have put together. Vancouver just dummied Ottawa. It was 5-0. They cruised to a 6-3 win. They put it on cruise control after that. Vancouver wasn't thrilled with their effort against Philly, and they clearly played like it last night against Ottawa. And no consistency still for the Senators, who continue to be a win one, lose one kind of team since Jacques Martin took over. Detroit, 5-3 against San Jose. That was a good result. Red Wings team total over, full game over, which was my best bet on the show yesterday. Detroit's an over machine right now. I mean, they're scoring and they're giving them up. And Alex Lyon hasn't been as great, too, since he's been back from this injury. That's now 3 straight starts for him of at least 3 goals allowed. So hasn't been the same Alex Lyon in net either. David Perron, we talked about him up to the top line on the show yesterday. What happens? He scores 2 goals for the Red Wings last night. So good win for them. And they faced some adversity, too, because they were down 3-2 in the third period and ended up coming back to win 5-3 in that game. And then, of course, one of the performances of the night, and certainly one of the performances of the season, Alex, from the Toronto Maple Leafs. I can't believe what I saw. I mean, 3-0. It was a defensive clinic from a team that they're allergic to the term defensive clinic more often than not, the Toronto Maple Leafs. And what I saw, I was like, is this Toronto Maple Leafs? Really? Am I watching this team with the maple leaf on their sweater? doing this shit right now? I couldn't believe it. I mean, they were blocking shots. Their team structure was as on point as I've ever seen it. They gave the Kings nothing. They were shut down. They were in the shooting lanes. They were commitment to blocking shots. That shot block that Giordano took when the Kings had the extra attacker on late in that game, unbelievable display there. It was just a clinic defensively, and Martin Jones was solid. And Martin Jones, like, he gets the shutout, but he wasn't asked to do a ton. They played a whale of a defensive game in front of him last night, and that's what's frustrating, Alex, about the Leafs. We know they showed last night they've got it in them to play this kind of style, to play winning playoff style hockey, to defend, to block shots, to commit to communication in their own, to commit to playing good, solid defense and not turning pucks over. They can play like it, but we just don't see it enough. And we certainly don't see it with any sort of consistency. And that's the issue. But last night, it was a clinic on the road, an absolute, utter clinic by the Toronto Maple Leafs in that 3-0 shutout victory over the LA Kings last night. And all of a sudden, I'm worried about the Kings. You can't be this bad at home for this long.
Yep.
You got to figure this shit out with the home record. This is at the point where it's ridiculous now that the LA Kings have this kind of home record when they've been ripping it up on the road all season. So that's something they've got to figure it out. And now that's a couple losses in a row now, Edmonton, Toronto, and this is a Kings team searching for answers. The power play sucks right now for the Kings at this point in time, but they made a move just now before I came on air, Alex. Brandt Clarke called up, and this is one of their great upper tier prospects in their pipeline as far as the blue liners are concerned. So I think they want to shake things up right now, and they're hoping a little shot of adrenaline and youth and huge upside from a guy like Brandt Clarke will help things out for them. Alex, and what did you think of the huge slate last night?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of good action. I got to catch quite a bit of it. Starting with that Calgary game against Minnesota, that was just fantastic. My best bet winner. I kind of wish I had doubled up on it because, like I said, I liked that spot, and it kind of led to a spot that I'm looking at for tomorrow involving the Wild. But like I said, just a great game, and you saw where a lot of those shots came from. If you look at the shot chart after the contest, shots on the point, redirection, getting traffic in front of guys, and that's what Calgary has to kind of get back to, being a little bit more creative and getting those gritty goals. That's the way that a team needs to operate. So I thought that was a solid victory for them. You mentioned about Ottawa and Vancouver. Watched a little bit of that game. Ottawa it looked flat dead. As somebody was joking in the chat earlier about the teams that may have still been hungover from New Year's, and a team like Ottawa might have been one of those contenders. Same thing with Pittsburgh. I mean, Pittsburgh was just lifeless. Like it was shockingly bad how they looked in the first period. Mike Sullivan's losing his mind. They pulled Tristan Jarry, and I thought for sure that game was just going to be a complete maybe 7-0, 8-0 kind of a blowout. When that first goal for Pittsburgh was actually taken off the board, and then Washington goes to score 4-0, I said that's a backbreaker. But they were lucky enough to get that first goal again late in the period. Like I said, draw season was still in full force. They had a chance to try and come back and rally. So just a tough start, not necessarily just a complete bad game. And maybe that's something they can build from, something to look for with Pittsburgh in their next contest. Maybe look for them first period to have some momentum there. The Hawks, I didn't watch much of the Hawks game because it's a Soderblom night, and I knew he was just going to lay an egg. It wasn't his fault they lost, though. The thing is, like I said, the offense was not there in front of him at all, and this team has just been dreadful against Nashville. The Predators are now 22-4-4 against the Hawks going back to the 17-18 season. That's just miserable, and you can't have that. Moving forward, the Hawks, to rebuild and be back at the top of that division, the top of the league, you have to beat your rivals, and you cannot afford to play like shit every time you go up against Nashville. So that's a problem that needs to be corrected sooner than later. Just kind of looking through some of the rest of the Toronto-LA game. Except, Martin Jones shutout. We never expect those coming because you can hardly, brace yourself to imagine he's going to go 60 minutes without giving a goal. But like I said, the Kings are in a bit of trouble right now. Like I said, with Edmonton playing much better, Calgary playing much better, Seattle trying to get it together, they can't afford to have an extended slump right now because they will find themselves not only out of that 3 spot in the Pacific, they'll find themselves out of that wild card race altogether. So things are going to get really tight in the Pacific. We already anticipated that going to the beginning of this season. But the Kings have definitely got to try to find a way to tread some water and weather the storm here. And some of these teams behind them creeping up because things are getting kind of tough. And like I said, with the Maple Leafs, is a great win for them. Like I said, they have the talent. We know they can play quality, sound hockey. But the thing that we got to look at, and we'll talk about a little bit later for tonight's game, is consistency. Can you trust this group to be consistent? Even after all this time, they've proven they can't do that. Can you trust them now? And then we're also looking at trusting into a new goaltender as well. So definitely looking forward to talking about that game a little bit.
Yeah, it's almost like, and we can see this from a mile away. We'll get to it. They're playing the Ducks tonight. It's almost like, to ensure you get that kind of effort again tonight from this Toronto team, if you're Sheldon Keefe and you're Brad Treliving and you're Brendan Shanahan, it's like, how can we bottle that up and bring it tonight against a team that's a lesser team? And this is always where we shit the bed. This is always where we play down to the competition. You need to find some. Now you're out in California. You got to do it out there. You got to hire some kind of hypnotist, bring all the players in, put them under, and make them think that they're taking on the LA Kings tonight when they step on the ice. It's almost like that's what you got to make happen, to get that kind of performance again and make them think it's the Kings tonight that they're playing, not the Anaheim Ducks, who have been awful, by the way, in these last two games, which is disappointing to me considering they're finally getting healthy. So that's going to be the challenge. And you're right about Pittsburgh. Speaking of, a team that was awful, I thought it was three forwards and 2 defense on the ice at all times in that first period that were honestly in a coma. Seriously, in that first period. That's how bad they were. Like, that is how absolutely horrendous the Pittsburgh Penguins were in that game. It's also why I didn't fucking trust them. I remember on that show. They're now 1-4, the Pittsburgh Penguins, as a -175 or greater home favorite this season. -175 or greater,
Wow.
home favorite, 1-4 this season. Remember the Ducks went in there and beat them earlier this season when Pittsburgh was a big home. You can't trust them in that price range. You just can't. And we saw it again last night against Washington with that absolutely dreadful start. Shout out to everyone in the chat. I know Andrew was in the chat earlier. McGinnis, our old friend, former colleague on the show. So hope he's doing well. I wish him Happy New Year. And again, a reminder, if you're just joining us, we've got our betcast January 16, 7 p.m. Eastern time, Tuesday, January 16. So we're definitely looking forward to that. And one last point about the Leaf game. They're always talking about this team doesn't show any team unity, any pushback. Someone gets hit in a questionable manner. No one does anything. Last night, that was different. Dubois with a little bit of a shady hit there on Matthews. And Matthew Nyes, of all people, the first person in there to get involved and go after Dubois. And then you saw McCabe and you saw Simone Benoit, who, by the way, is drawing rave reviews for the Toronto Maple Leafs on the blue line. Benoit, physical. He's been good in his own end, making good fights, drops the gloves. He had a good scrap last night with England from the LA Kings. Simone Benoit has been a very, and I mean very, pleasant surprise for the Toronto Maple Leafs with what he's brought that blue line, a little sandpaper, and he's making good plays. Has he turned the puck over? I can't remember a time he's done that. He's made good plays out of the defensive zone, good zone exits, if you will, physical, willing to drop the gloves. So he has been a very, very, like, no one expected this when he first got into the lineup with all those injuries they had with Liljegren and Giordano and all those guys out. But he has really stepped up and done a nice job for them on that blue line. All right, let's get into the two games tonight. We will begin with the New Jersey Devils and Washington Capitals. Devils -180, road favorite, 6.5 the total in this game. Obviously, when you just look at the scheduling factors going into this game, huge advantage for New Jersey. Washington's on a back-to-back, and you've got a very well-rested Devils team that hasn't played since Saturday when they were knocked off by the Boston Bruins 5-2. Really a game that got away from the Malaks in the second period where it just fell apart. It crumbled. They gave up like 4 goals in that second period, and the game just got away right at that moment. So they'll be looking to atone for that and bouncing back here in this game. Devils have been a better road team all year. 11-6 they are on the road. So we'll see if they can carry that over to this game. Washington on the back-to-back with that 4-3 win, as we mentioned, against Pittsburgh. But let's be careful with giving them too much credit for that win. You know, that was a situation where they had a great first period, and Pittsburgh had maybe one of the worst periods you'll ever see in that first period. And then after that, I thought Pittsburgh was the better of the two. But Washington was able to just hang on for dear life at the end and get the 4-3 victory. And they had to expend energy, too. Think about it. You know, they had to work hard, dig in, to preserve that lead, and now you're playing on a back-to-back. So a little bit of a tricky situation here for Washington tonight. It should be a very interesting goalie matchup because Nico Daws is going to make the start here for the New Jersey Devils. Obviously, Vanacek, the number one goalie, but they're giving Nico Daws the start tonight in this game for the Devils. And what's funny is they do not have back-to-back here. This is just a decision by Lindy Ruff. Let's get Nico Daws in here for a start in this game. He did start against Ottawa last week, and he actually played pretty well, 6-2 win for the Devils in that game against the Sens. We'll see if he can carry that over. It should be Hunter Shepard in net here for the Capitals. Remember, Charlie Lindgren's on the injured list. Darcy Kemper played last night, so pretty much makes sense that we're going to see Hunter Shepard here in net tonight for the Capitals. Two very inexperienced goalies at the NHL level. That being said, Shepard, is actually 2-0-1 this season with pretty decent numbers, 2.27 goals against, 926 save percentage. But he's now facing a team that's got, a pretty decent amount of firepower, and a rested team as well, the New Jersey Devils. So we'll see how they fare here in this one. It definitely feels like a Devils spot in this game. I'm going to take them in a -1, which I don't do very often. That's the way I'm going to approach it here. I'd rather have that than the regulation because we have seen some draw history. The draw could get there. We have seen the games in Washington recently with these two teams, go to overtime, but I'm not so sure. I think this feels like one of those, especially with New Jersey losing both games earlier this season against Washington in New Jersey. They played each other twice in New Jersey, and Capitals won both of those games. I just feel it's a New Jersey spot. The better of these two teams. They're off a loss. They're rested. Washington, off a back-to-back. I do like New Jersey a little bit here. I'm going to go with a small bit on the -1, small bit on the draw. I really like the team total over 3.5 here at a reasonable price, -112 for the Devils in this one. The total's interesting here. I would lean full game over, but Daws was very good against Ottawa. Let's keep that in mind. He only gave up 2 goals. So it could be one of those games where, as much as we have issues at times with the Devils defensively, like I'll take over 6.5 for a small bet. I prefer the Devils team total here in this one because I think they'll do a little bit more of the scoring in this one because I thought Daws looked pretty solid against Ottawa. We'll see if he can carry that over. But again, we're talking about a goalie with a very small sample size. And obviously when it comes to player props, we got to go with it again. See if he can score for the 4th straight game. Luke Hughes for the New Jersey Devils on the blue line. He's been shooting the puck a lot more. It's been very impressive to watch. He's been doing a great job on the power play, quarterbacking it as well. And there's really been very little, if any, adjustment with the goal price, considering now that's 3 straight games with a goal for him. It's still plus 575 right now at Bet Rivers for him to score a goal tonight. So we're going to keep rocking and rolling with Luke Hughes to get the job done again and find the back of the net once again tonight for the New Jersey Devils here in this game. He's also now on the number 1 power play unit. Even more opportunity for him as well going into this game tonight. And Dawson Mercer, I would look toward him as well for the Devils. He's starting to heat up. We know he can be streaky. And right now he's got 6 points in the last 5 games, 3 goals in the last 5 games for the Devils. So those are 2 favorite props here in this game by far. Dawson Mercer and Luke Hughes here for the New Jersey Devils. Alex, what do you think here? Devils, Capitals.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting game. It's a good TNT game. And I think we're going to see a lot of goals here. Like I said, Nico Daws, Hunter Shepard, these 2 goalies, they faced each other in the AHL before, but like I said, limited time for both in the NHL. And I think this could definitely be a game where, especially seeing Washington, the way that they got off to that hot start, we mentioned that was a poor Pittsburgh start, but Washington could get some momentum and kind of maybe say, hey, let's start off and get this game going as well early in the first period, because that's something you haven't seen from them. We haven't seen a lot of speed and momentum from this Capitals team in a while. They're a slower paced team. They looked like shades of old Washington in that start last night, so they can bring some of that and match that intensity with New Jersey, at least early in the contest. They won't be able to do it for a full 60 minutes. They get ran out if they try to make it a full boat race. But I think bringing some pressure early and testing Daws, we can definitely see that. And when the Devils, like I said, testing Shepard as well. So both teams to score in the first period. I like that spot as well as first period over 1.5. I'm laying it with $1.40 early. I'm not even going to take time to try and wait and grab a better price. We could see some scoring pretty early in this contest. And also I'm laying the $1.10 with 6.5 for the full game over. side, I'm not touching anything here. I don't like the draw, even though I've seen the history. Like I said, we've seen a couple of OT games, 2 of the last 4, but this has been all Capitals in the series. 13 of the last 17 meetings, Washington has won. I just don't trust where New Jersey, especially laying this kind of a price. I don't even want to get creative like you did with the -1 here. Staying off of the side, just going all totals. First period, full game, and first period, both teams to score.
Yeah, I get the reluctancy. It's been Washington. Washington's beaten them twice this year. Washington's 2-0 against New Jersey this year. I definitely
They have
would
their
understand
number.
why
Some
people
teams
are-
just have other teams' numbers, no matter what year or what the situation.
Yep. But I'm going to give New Jersey a chance to change things tonight because they couldn't ask for a better setup. Washington had to gut
Sure.
it out last night in Pittsburgh, back-to-back. They're rested. They're smarting off a 5-2 loss where it crumbled for them in the second period against Boston. It's just a great setup for them to roll in here to Washington. And they actually have beaten. It's been a road warrior series as well. I should point that out. Washington's won in Jersey. Jersey's won in Washington. That's basically been the way it's been the last couple of seasons. So I'm going to go New Jersey -1. A little smaller on that. I like the team total more, over 3.5 here with the Devils at a -112 in this game. Let's be honest, too. Washington, too, an older team. That's a good point from one of our people in the chat there, too. And they had to, gut it out there to hang on against Pittsburgh last night. Now they got to defend a team that's rested and has tons of speed, as we know, the New Jersey Devils. So definitely good stuff. And like I said, good prop game, too.
I think, Devils team total, like I said, and you're laying $1.12. So anything under $1.20, that's probably the best way to approach if you like New Jersey tonight, because that way you get 4 goals. Okay, fine. If this gets to be a back and forth kind of game, they lose 5-4, 6-5, you still cash your ticket. So that might be something I kind of lean and play a little small on that.
Yeah, I'm going to go New Jersey -1, more on the team total over 3.5, and back to a little small piece of the draw, simply because the last 2 meetings and 3 of the last 4 meetings in Washington between the Devils and Capitals have gone to overtime or a shootout.
You can easily sprinkle $5 or $10 on any matchup between Metro Division opponents the rest of the year. You could take all the Metropolitan Division interdivision games the rest of the year and put $5 or $10 on the draw and see how it goes, because these teams are literally going to cannibalize each other in the next 2.5 months. So that's definitely something worth looking at.
I agree with that. And by the way, I also want to point out Bratt to Foley. They've been in good form lately for the Devils as well. I think they're worth a look too, especially to Foley. 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points in the last 4 games. He's a streaky scorer as well. Definitely could see him maybe chipping in, but especially Mercer and Hughes. Those are the 2 that I'm most interested in here tonight for the Luke Hughes, that is, for the New Jersey Devils, as far as the prop market in this game. But should be interesting. This is your TNT game as well, with the Devils and the Capitals here tonight. All right, the second game and the final game of this 2-game slate on this Wednesday night, the Toronto Maple Leafs, they are on a back-to-back as they take on the Anaheim Ducks. Toronto -210. Road favorites here at the Honda Center in Orange County. Total 6.5, shaded to the over in this game. And the great debate, we heard it all throughout the Toronto Maple Leaf broadcast last night of the Leafs-Kings game. I was going back and forth. I had the ESPN feed on for some of it, the Leaf feed on for some of it last night. But all the discussion was to start or not to start Dennis Hildeby here tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs on a back-to-back, knowing that Martin Jones is not only playing well, played very well last night, got the shutout against the Kings. They just roll with the hot hand right now and go back to Martin Jones, who is in one of those forms right now, Martin Jones, where he's getting the job done. So that's been the big question mark. We don't have confirmation yet. And as far as I know, the Leafs are not going to get to the rink or speak to the media until later today, like probably 3-4 hours before puck drops. So that's probably when we're going to find out who's going to be in net. So this bit more of a difficult game to handicap without knowing who's going to be in net, just because I think it does make a difference. Martin Jones is in a back-to-back, even though he's playing well. I don't love backing teams with goaltenders on a second night of a back-to-back. That's never something I'm really looking to do. And if it's Dennis Hildeby in net, or as Leaf fans are already calling him Hildebeest, and he hasn't even played a game yet in the NHL. I mean, talk about already the hype train just going off the tracks already. Let's calm down a little bit. And I know he's been great with the Toronto Marlies this year in 15 games. Really good, outstanding, in fact. But The NHL is a different kettle of fish, as they say. So let's see how it ends up playing out here. But I honestly, if you ask me, if you say put the Sheldon Keefe hat on, we're going to see Dennis Hildeby tonight. If you ask me, I really do think they'll give him the start. But again, that's just assumption right now on my part. Now, this kid is huge. He's 6'7". He's over 200 pounds, and he's one of those prototypical goalies that fills the net. Like, he's a big guy. He's got more mobility and athleticism for a guy his size as well. But 6'7", man, that is big time height for a goaltender. No question about that. So he's got the tools. But again, we're talking about someone that's got 15 professional games under his belt, all in the AHL. He came out of the Swedish Junior League before that. And now you're asking him maybe to make his NHL. And really the only reason he's in this position is because Joe Woll's hurt. Samsonov is all fucked in the head and struggling badly right now. And his confidence is shot. And because of that, Martin Jones and this guy now are your goalies next in line, next man up, because of everything that's going on with the Leafs goaltending this year. So it's a tough spot. You ask anybody in the Leaf organization, Alex, there's no way they would have said, yeah, we're going to have Dennis Hildeby making his Leaf debut in January for this team. No, not a chance. If everything were to stay status quo, if Samsonov doesn't, hit a wall with his confidence and his level of play, if Woll doesn't get hurt, there's no way we're in a spot right here on January 3rd where we're talking about the NHL debut of Dennis Hildeby. But because of situations, that's where we are right now with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So an interesting decision here. It's hard to move on this game right now until I know that. I'll say this. I am almost at the point where I've had it with Anaheim. I've had it. I've given this team every excuse in the book. When they started to really struggle a few weeks ago and they were having some bad games, I'm like, well, wait till they get everybody healthy. Well, what's the excuse now? Okay, because Mason McTavish is healthy. Jamie Drysdale's back. And these couple of games that they have played, you get shut out in your own building by Arizona. And then you get absolutely – now Edmonton's on a roll right now, don't get me wrong. But to get steamrolled like that, 7-2 by the Edmonton Oilers in their last game, 6-14 here at home. That's a terrible home record for the Anaheim Ducks, even with the schedule in their favor. I'm not sure I trust this group. Schedule was in their favor against Edmonton Sunday night. Edmonton's coming off a big win against LA, won in a shootout, back-to-back for the Oilers. And Oilers went in there and rolled Anaheim. So I can't trust I'm done trusting Anaheim for now. But I also am not going to lay minus 210 with the Leafs. So I know from a side perspective, I'm out. It's draw or pass if I do anything with this game as far as side-wise. Totals-wise, 6.5, we'll see. I can tell you that we've seen the overcash in 4 straight meetings, so I would certainly lean that way with Jones in net. With Hildeby in net, yeah, maybe he's just overwhelmed and he's not ready for the NHL and he gets shelled. That's a potential. But there's also that human element, Alex. Hildeby starts, what are the Leaf players going to want to do? They're going to want to rally around it and play the whale of a game for this kid and help him out. And there's that element that you have to consider if Dennis Hildeby starts. So nothing at all that I've locked in, nothing super strong, that's for sure. But as of right now, I'd lean draw, I'd lean over if I were to do anything here. Interesting game, though. And again, we'll get more clarity later in the day what the Leafs are going to do. They're going to debut this kid in net tonight for the first time. What do you in the NHL, I should say? What do you think here, Alex? Toronto, Anaheim.
All right, so there's a lot to unpack here with this Maple Leafs game. Like I said, it's the second night of back-to-backs. You're coming off of a Martin Jones shutout, right? Which is, that's you seeing the eclipse and finding a pot of gold at the same time, getting that. So now, do you run him back the second of a back-to-back, or do you start this kid Dennis Hildeby? And now, I've heard you talk about it. I've heard Leafs fans talking about it, and I get it. As a someone who was a fan of a team that went through a long-suffering cup drought, and you just wanting things to click into place, you grasp at straws and just find hope in anything you can. The Dennis Hildeby story is very interesting, and it's fascinating that he's even in this spot in the NHL right now. When you look back, and I'm reading this on Daily Faceoff earlier today when I'm doing my capping, and talking about how he was basically a mascot for the Swedish team and working at a skating school in Sweden, dealing with a bunch of injuries during his youth, and finally getting the chance to play. He's only played, as I look at Hockey DB, in 28 professional games in Sweden, 17 starts in the AHL, and now is sitting as a backup last night and possibly starting in the NHL today. It's very, very, very little overall time to be talking about a guy making a debut in the NHL at just 22 years of age. And you look at his numbers in the NHL, they weren't really that great. He had a couple of starts early that were nice, back-to-back shutouts. He had a 4-game win streak, but then you look at his last 3 starts, went 0-2-1. He's given up 3 or more goals in each of his last 4 starts in the AHL. I don't
That's
know.
true. He hasn't been good lately. You're right. That's true.
I think the hype train here is wildly overrated. It's a wonderful story, and kudos to him. But I think he's going to have a rude wake up call here by the Anaheim Ducks.
Jeremy Lin, fucking Tommy DeVito feel to it right now.
Yeah,
a little bit, doesn't it? A little bit.
I mean, it's a wonderful story. Yeah. It's a wonderful story. They're in Anaheim, so if Disney's listening, maybe you pick it up and turn it into a movie. But as far as the real world on the ice in this contest tonight, I'm all over Anaheim. I think the Ducks are going to give him a rude welcome to the league. And I think, the Leafs already had to play like hell defensively against Martin Jones. Now, like you said, can they bottle that up and do that again tonight in front of Hildeby? I don't think so. Could they bottle that up again and do it again for a second night in front of Jones? I don't think so. This is a model of inconsistency for the Leafs. They got to prove to me that they can be consistent in spots like this. This is a game where you should roll over Anaheim, win this game 5-2, play well for either your goaltender who's been hot, who's been saving the season, or your 4th-string goaltender who's come out of nowhere, being a mascot in Sweden 3 years ago to now being the backup of this club. But I don't believe they can do that. So I don't trust them one bit, just like you don't trust Anaheim, and that's totally understandable too. I'm super mad with Anaheim as somebody who holds a ticket for them to make the playoffs. But putting that aside, at plus 180, I'm taking a shot at the Ducks, also taking a shot with both teams to score in the first period at plus 135. And might take a little shot with Ducks team total over, but I got to be a little more creative and look for something at BetMGM with that.
Yeah, that's absolutely. So it's very, very fascinating. This match. You're right. That's an incredible story. You're right. This guy's like he's a mascot. Like being a hockey goalie, he's not really in his consideration at that point. But definitely, it's a situation that's pretty amazing there when you talk about it. There you go. Come on, Andy. Don't give me that. Jeremy Lin went on to win an NBA. He went on to win an NBA championship, keeping the fucking bench warm. That guy didn't even get in any games in 2019 with the Raptors. My gosh. I mean, I hope you're being funny when you say that. Come on. They didn't win the NBA championship because of him. He was serving the team water on the bench and keeping them hydrated or some shit, sitting on his keister on the bench. Come on. He didn't have any factor into that championship. Come on. That's bad. Bringing that up. I hope you're being funny when you're saying that. I hope you're not serious, because if you're serious, that's ridiculous.
I also buried the lead in that story, and thanks for everybody mentioning in the chat. Yes, he is 6'7", and he has this incredible size, but he also had double hip surgery. So that's something that, like, usually you worry about a guy in his late 30s who's been playing in the league having double hip surgery, trying to come back and be, stable and prove what he's already proven. Here's a kid at 22 years of age who's had a pretty serious surgery for somebody that young, now trying to make his NHL debut. And everybody gets all wrapped up about size. It's the same shit you hear like in MLB all the time about a guy who has great frame. He's big and athletic. And that doesn't always mean shit in the NHL. Just because he's 6'7", all right, fine. Yes, he can stuff the net size-wise, but he's got to move around a little bit. So that's another thing that's a huge question mark. And like I said, making this step up to the NHL. So I'm not buying the hype that all the fans of the Maple Leafs Nation are trying to put on this kid right now. And if he does something well, it proves me wrong, so be it. But I don't think it's going to happen. So give me the Ducks.
All right, Anaheim for plus 180. This is like I said, I don't want the Ducks because they've greatly hurt me multiple times with the, and at the same time, I don't want I know I don't trust the Leafs, on a back-to-back minus 210 road favorites against an inferior opponent. This is always where they've had that clunker and lay an egg. And I kind of want to see Hildeby play first before I'm ready to do anything in terms of backing him. So it's draw, maybe, just for, a chance to cash a big plus price. And I do want to point out, I think as far as the draw is concerned, Alex, 2 of the last 3 meetings have gone to overtime or a shootout with the Leafs and Ducks. And last year in Anaheim, October 30th, it was a 4-3 Ducks win in overtime. So there you go. Give me that. 4-3 Ducks in overtime. Alex wins. My draw lean hits. My over lean hits 6.5. So we're all happy if that happens. tonight. We'll see. I agree with Adam thinking about Drysdale. Adam in our chat here talking about Jamie Drysdale. You're right. He's actually been, I don't blame him too much. It's just a shame that the team has not played all that great since he's been back. But, he's shooting the puck quite a bit. He did score against Vegas. And as long as you got someone that's shooting the puck often and you can get them at a reasonable price, and this is more than reasonable. You're talking, plus 850 at FanDuel. I don't mind that for a bigger long shot as far as goal props are concerned. So keep that in mind. We'll see. The funny thing about Matthews is when Matthews is quiet one game, he usually is better the next game. So this could be a Matthews over 1.5 points or Matthews sprinkle on 2+ goals kind of night. You could see it. And again, Anaheim's not exactly been a defensive juggernaut here. The 7 goals allowed to Edmonton, not great. They've given up pretty much 3 or more consistently in the last 10 games. So Toronto should be able to find the back of the net, which is why I'm leaning over the total. And like I said, I am at least mildly interested in the draw. Not my strongest stance on a draw bet by any stretch of the imagination, but I do lean that way with this Leafs and Ducks game here tonight. All right, great stuff. That is the Wednesday NHL card. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. We appreciate it very much. A reminder again, one more time, patreon.com/Ice Guys, $10 per month. Our daily card, sides, totals, player props are all posted there, as well as the additional written content, goalie charts, totals charts, and more. And of course, exclusive betcast, only available to Patreon Ice Guys members coming in January. We will not say the date. It's going to be a surprise, impromptu betcast. We're just going to drop the link on the Patreon page the day of the betcast and say, hey, we got a betcast tonight. Come on and join us. That's the way it's going to go. So we're looking forward to it with the betcast exclusive to Patreon members, in addition to our regular monthly betcast, which will be Tuesday, January 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern. So looking forward to not one, but 2 betcasts coming your way here in the month of January. And also make sure you check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. New merch, new gear available there just in time for the new year. So make sure you get involved there, iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
Yeah, definitely check out all the new merch. I got my draw season hoodie coming this weekend, I think. So definitely want to take a look at some of the new merch we've got going on there. That's iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
All right, check that out. Indeed. All right, it is time for bargain bin special of the night for this Wednesday slate. Obviously, a little bit slim pickings with only 2 games on the menu tonight. But Alex, did you find anything bargain bin worthy tonight?
Yes, I did. Looking at that Anaheim-Toronto game, I was kind of perusing through the Anaheim lineup. Like I said, I think they'll be able to get some goals tonight. And you look on that power play unit, they still got Jacob Silfverberg on the second unit, even though he's playing on the 4th line. But he's a guy that definitely has some chances to get some quality looks if we see this game get into some man advantage trouble. So I'm looking at him plus 600 to get a goal anytime here. Jacob Silfverberg. Taking a shot with him, you get plus 600 at FanDuel, points bet, in a couple of different places. So you're in that 500 to 600 range. Definitely taking a shot with him, Jacob Silfverberg, to get a goal tonight for the Anaheim Ducks.
All right, that's Jacob Silfverberg. I think is Jakob if you're going to pronounce it in Swedish, but yeah, Jakob Silfverberg for the Anaheim Ducks to score a goal tonight. He is someone that years ago when he started in Ottawa, remember Ottawa was the first team he was with. He was a pretty good goal scorer. You could count on him for 25, 30 goals in a few seasons. Not anymore, but Alex does like him tonight here, given that little bump in the power play time. So Jakob Silfverberg for the Anaheim Ducks to score a goal tonight for Alex with his bargain bin special of the night. Unfortunately, no dice for Matt and I with the bargain bin last night. McLeod didn't score. Nick Robertson, it was a good setup, but he had a pretty quiet game for the Leafs. And of course, Evgeny Dodonov also failed to get on the score sheet for the Dallas Stars last night against his old team. But tonight, for my bargain bin special of the night, and I'm going to go back to the well. We've already cashed him just recently on the weekend as a bargain bin special of the night recommendation. It's just the price is still just ridiculously much too good to pass up going back to the well with him again for bargain bin special of the night tonight. Luke Hughes for the New Jersey Devils, plus 575 at Bet Rivers. We are going to go back to the well with him once again tonight. He's been, like I said, a dynamo on the blue line offensively lately for the New Jersey Devils. He has now got 3 games straight with a goal, 5 points during that span. And when you see this now, if you're Luke Hughes, that you have scored in 3 straight games, you want to keep it going. You've got incentive to keep the streak going as long as possible. So it's an absolutely phenomenal price. It is the clear choice for me for bargain bin special of the night. Once again, Luke Hughes, New Jersey Devils, plus 575 for my bargain bin special of the night. All right, best bets to wrap it up. 2-0 sweep for Matty Robinson and I with the best bets yesterday. We'll see if we can provide an encore tonight. Alex, what do you like for best bet?
Yeah, let's go to that Washington, New Jersey game. I'm going to go with the first period over 1.5, laying $1.40. Anything higher than that, try to grab it a little bit better in game. But I think we'll be able to get that one secured, and that's widely available. Looking at the last 3 meetings, we've seen at least 3 goals scored in that first period between these 2 teams. You got Nico Dahl's going against Hunter Shepard, a couple of third-string goaltenders. So I think we can see some pace back and forth. Both these teams should get some good quality looks early. So we're going with that first period over with the Devils and Caps. That's my best bet.
All right, there you go. First period over 1.5. New Jersey, Washington. Best bet here for Alex B. Smith on this Wednesday card. My best bet, on a night where I'm not feeling great about anything, by default, we're going to go with New Jersey team total here. Over 3.5, minus 112. Only 2 games to choose from. I actually think it's the better bet than the -1 because, you don't, with Washington playing this team tough the last few years, you don't always want to bank on just the win for New Jersey, but bank on them scoring 4 goals tonight. I think it's realistic. Huge rest advantage. Awful loss to Boston, a frustrating loss where they were in that game and they just let it get away from them in the second period. And they have won each of the last 2 meetings here in Washington. And I think if they win tonight, I don't think they're winning a 2-0 or 2-1 or 3-1 game. I think if they win tonight, they're able to score at least 4 goals. So New Jersey Devils team total over 3.5, minus 112. For my best bet here on this Wednesday NHL slate. That'll wrap up this edition of the show. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week. Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on Thursday with our old friend Jay Rosehill back on the show tomorrow. Looking forward to bringing him back on to talk Leafs. Of course, he's on the Leaf Morning Take show that he does. And he's also doing a fight like analysis, like vicious, violent incidents, like analysis type of show as well. An additional show that he's doing. Department of Discipline, I think, is the name of it. And he's doing a podcast with that as well. So we'll get all the info on those shows. He's a busy guy in the media world now. And, of course, he'll also we'll talk Leafs, of course, and we'll break down the Thursday NHL card in full with Jay Rosehill tomorrow on the show. So tune in tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern. Have a great Wednesday night, and we'll be back tomorrow on Thursday for another edition of the Ice Guys.